All right, bet. We in motion. I see the chat is lighting up. Another strong Monday, 300 plus on the line. I'm excited. If you heard one of the things Danielle said, she said the words Impact Island, meaning she's talking about convention. So every person, I'm going to speak about it every time you see me on the call at an event for the next 45 days. The only thing that's on my mind is over 2,000 people at the convention. So you want to look at your organization and say, man, out of that 2,000, how many people am I going to have from my group tuned into the webinar? Because at the end of the day, it's not even really a webinar. It's a real online event. It's going to be the best thing we've ever experienced. It's $25. Make sure you got your ticket so that you can be there, so you can solidify yourself as one of the 1,000 chairmen. If you're one of the 1,000 chairmen, drop your name in the chat box. I know this isn't for everybody, but if you are one of those 1,000 chairmen, drop your name in the chat box, because I'm excited. Here's why I'm excited. So last night, I'm chilling, and a call comes to my phone, and it was a call that Bryce was doing. Bryce and some of his Chairman 250s are part of his group, and I'm listening to Bryce talk on a call last night, and it got to a point where my imagination began to really, really stretch. All right, and if you weren't on that call last night, then I'm about to stretch your imagination the way that he stretched my imagination. He's talking on this call, and he went on to say that, you know, of the ranks of the things that the company, that the leadership is talking about with the company. He said something that made so much sense. I need you to really listen to this. He said, when I joined the company, there was no such thing as a Chairman 750. But today, I'm a Chairman 750. But when I joined 3 years ago, there was no such thing as a Chairman 750. He said, right now, there's no such thing as a Chairman 1 million. But you're going to look up, you know, in a short period of time, and there's going to be people cracking a position that hasn't even been created yet, but people are already talking about it as if it's been created, Chairman 1 million. He said, what's even more crazy than that, you're going to look up in the next 3 years, and there's going to be Chairman 2.5 million. And I just started scratching my head like, wait a minute. 2.5 million. And then he kept going. He said, you know what? And there's even talks about a Chairman 5 million. So then I just began to pull out my calculator. And I said, 2.5 million a month times 12. That's $30 million a year. It's $30 million a year. And then I said, wait a minute. Well, if that's 30 million, that means 5 million a month. That has to be 60 million. So then I began to think about all of my friends that have signed NFL contracts and a lot of these athletes that have signed these big contracts. I'm thinking like, bro, they don't even make 30 million a year, 60 million a year. So the fact that this company wants to pay out that type of money should let you know that you're in the right place. It should let you know that you're in the right place. In my mind, it just began to get stretched. And I just began to imagine, what in the world does life look like at $60 million a year? What does life really look like at $30 million a year? I really think about that. Think about, and this is how I put it into perspective today. I'm a Travis Scott fan, and I'm watching this little 10-minute video about Travis Scott. And it was talking about how much money that Travis Scott makes from like streams and all of that. I said, wait a minute. Chris Terry talking about paying more money to a person than Travis Scott is making from streams. And I thought about it, I said, dang, it would be really nice to live a life like Travis Scott. And I said, the company is trying to pay people to live like Travis Scott. That's the thought process that went through my mind, because I'm looking at them talking about how much money Travis Scott makes residually from his streams, from the music that he's put on YouTube, the music that he's put out on the internet. The company, Chris Terry, is trying to pay out that type of money to everyday, normal people. But my question for you is, can you actually imagine it? Can you really imagine what your life looks like at $1 million a month, $2.5 million a month, $5 million a month? Because like Bryce said on the call, when we all joined the company, there was no such thing as a Chairman 750. Wasn't even talked about. And then through work out the years, boom, now you have people that are earning $750,000 a month. So if that's happened in the past 3 years, well, what do the next 6 years look like? Because a lot of people, they don't think that far. A lot of people only think about the next 12 months, the next 18 months. But if IML, the company I Am, has done all of this that is done in the past 7 years, what do the next 7 years look like? Think about that, because here's the deal. You have to be able to imagine this type of stuff, because when you imagine it, it produces the right thinking. Your imagination produces the right thinking, and the right thinking produces the right believing. The right believing produces the right working. So if I haven't got to a place where I'm imagining the things that I want, that means I'm not thinking on the things that I want. And if I don't think on the things that I want, I can't believe the way that I need to believe to go out there and do the work. So my question for you again is, can you imagine what life looks like for you in your mind when you are wealthy, when you've changed the dynamics of your family, when you've done the unthinkable in your family, when you were that person to go first in your family, when you were that person to go out there and create that success for your family? Can you imagine it? Here's why you have to imagine it. See, if you don't imagine it, your mind will always take you back to the experiences that you've had in the past. See, if you can imagine a better life, if you can imagine a different life, if you can't imagine a life of prosperity, then your mind will always take you back to images and things that you've used to experience, because it has nothing to imagine. The mind has two functions: to pre-play the future and replay the past. Well, if my mind isn't pre-playing any future, then I always have to go back to how my mind normally thinks, because we have this thing called the paradigm, and the paradigm controls 60% of all human behaviors. So if I'm not thinking about anything different, then automatically I pretty much have to go back to the way that I used to think and do the things that I used to do, because I'm not using the first part or the other part of my imagination. I'm only using it to play my memory. And if the company, if the fact that it's even in conversation, because this isn't something that's solid, this is something that's just in conversation, but the fact that it's in conversation, that you have a gentleman by the name of Chris Terry that wants to pay out between $2.5 and $5 million a month to everyday normal people who all invested the same $235 or $195 or $324, depending on when you join. But that same investment can pay out ridiculous types of money, but you have to get yourself to a place where you can imagine it. See, because David imagined what life looks like at $20 million a year, there had to be a position that opened up that paid him $20 million a year. Because David had the thought process, right, to earn the type of money that he sees himself earning in the future, there have to be ways that comes into pass for his life. There has to be. Why? Because your mind is the factory for your future. Your mind is the factory for your future. So whatever I can get deeply rooted in my mind is going to find a way to manifest itself in my experience. But I have to get it in my mind. I have to get to a place where I can really believe it. And that's why I have to constantly be thinking about the things that I want to show up in what I want to see show up in my life versus the things that I don't want to see show up in my life. Because what you got to understand is that your mind is your world. I love talking about the mind so much because out of the mind, life flows. We always talk about this. It flows. And see, success is not about doing 1,000 things right. It's about mastering this one thing over the course of time. It's not about a lot of different ideas. It's about finding the few right ideas and mastering those right ideas. And when I figured out how the mind actually works, when I figured out what this belief and stuff was really about, when I figured out that I could create the life that I want in my mind, and at some point it would show up in my experience, then everything about me really changed, because I understood that a lot of people are working backwards. See, a lot of people are working in the physical world first, and then trying to come and work in the spiritual world first, ignoring the laws that of creation. See, the laws of creation always let you know that before something can manifest in the physical world, it must first be conceived in the mind. It must first be conceived in the mind before it can ever become a physical thing. So I have to be able to see the thing that I want and get a clear picture of the thing that I want in my mind. Because if I can get a clear image, a clear picture of the thing that I want in my mind, then that thing has to find a way to show up in my life. What happens in your mind will happen in time if you let it. What happens in your mind will happen in time if you let it. See, and you got to give yourself time to succeed. You got to give yourself time to succeed, because once the battle has been won in your mind, you've already won the battle in your life. But at the end of the day, it takes time to prove if you really believe. It takes time to prove if you really believe. So it has to be time, because think about if $1 million a month were to hit you today. Are you even prepared? Are the bank accounts set up? Is the foundation set up? Is everything that you need for the tax benefits set up for $1 million a month? Listen, I make a lot of money, and I'm telling you, I'm not even set up for $1 million a month. That's a lot of money. I'm not even set up for $1 million a month right now with everything that I would need to not have to pay out the government everything. And that's okay. Why? Because time is on my side. Time is my friend. Time allows me to have experiences and get information to raise my awareness to the point where I can understand how to manage $1 million a month, how to manage 6 figures a week. Because a lot of people, you're ready for the front side of the blessing, but you're not ready for the back side of the blessing. Meaning you're ready for the things that you can buy with the money, but you're not ready to the responsibilities that come on the backside with the money, the challenges that come with having the money. See, everybody wants the front side of the blessing, the front side of the success, but we're not ready for what happens, what comes with that. And that's what time is for, because time puts you in a position to really get your mind in a place where you can understand everything that's happening. And see, the mind, listen, the mind is so powerful. It's so powerful that doctors, they did a test on a whole entire football team at Stanton University. I need you to really get this. They did a test on the entire football team at Stanton University. This was back in like the 60s or the 70s, right? They did the test. And when they did the test, they had all the players come in and they did a physical on the players, right? They did a physical on all the players. A day later, the doctors called all the players and said, yo, we found some type of, genetic material or something in their DNA, in that they were putting themselves at risk of a disease. They told this to every player on the team, that they were at risk for a disease because of something that was found in their DNA. 2 days later, you had 2 football players on the team who could not even get out of the bed. A week later, you had over 30% of the team that had sicknesses. 2 weeks later, the whole entire football team came to the training room with some type of sickness, disease, or something that they were complaining about. 3 weeks later, the doctors told every player on the team, you never had a disease. There was nothing ever wrong with you. We just wanted to test the power of suggestion. And they put something in their mind, and what was in their mind showed up in their experience, because they believed something that the doctor said, because they believed something that somebody said. They created an image. They created a movie in their mind, and you had players 2 days later who couldn't even get out of the bed. A week later, you had 30% of the team who was complaining about an illness. 2 weeks later, the whole entire football team came complaining about something that they felt like they had. 3 weeks later, the doctors tell every player on the team, nobody had a disease. We didn't even do any tests. We just wanted to test the power of the mind and test the power of suggestion. See, your mind is your world. And through your mind, you can access a life of pain or you can access a life of pleasure based on how you use your imagination. And each of those players, they created a life of pain based on the thoughts that they had about what somebody else said about their future. That's why you have to know what your truth is. That's why you got to know what your future looks like for you. Because when you know that, you don't really get upset about things that happen in the external world. You don't really get knocked off track by the things that are happening in life or business because you know what life looks like for you because you've created it in your mind. Your mind is the factory for your future. Because your mind is going to determine what your habits are, and your habits determine what your future is. Your mind determines what your body does, and the action that you take determines what your future is. So what we got to do is get it in our mind, get to a place where we really just believe. Where we really just believe. Because when you can manage your mind, you can manage all your feelings. And a lot of people, because they can't manage their mind the right way, they can't manage their feelings the right way when it comes down to the business. They can't manage their feelings the right way when it comes down to trading because they haven't captured their mind yet. And you have to control your mind because if you don't control your mind, that bad wolf, he's going to control your mind. See, I love what Inky was just talking about on the mixtape. He said, you have a good wolf in you and you have the bad wolf in you. Your life is determined by what wolf you choose to feed. So whatever voice, internal voice that you choose to listen to the most about your success, that is going to be the direction of your life. See, your mindset determines where your life is set. Your mindset determines where you are going to go. So now you got to think, okay, what have I been thinking? Like, who is renting space in my mind? What is renting space in my mind? Is it my goals or is it my distractions? Is it the challenges or is it the success that I'm going to create? Am I focused on the things that I can't control or am I focused on the things that I have 100% control over? And the things that you always have 100% control over are two things, your personal growth and your personal activity. See, your personal growth and your personal activity are the two things that you have complete control over in your business. You cannot control anything that anybody in your organization does. Upline, downline, sideline, crossline. You have no control over that. You have no control over what they say. You have no control over what they do, but you know what you do have control over? Your perspective and how you see the situation. See, I don't have control over anything that anybody does, but I do have control over the perspective and how I see the situation because I understand. Because Mike Murdoch helped me understand. You remember that book that David recommended that everybody get? Yeah, one of the first things that he talked about is every battle is a mind battle. Not some battles. Every battle is a mind battle. So it's all about how I see a thing that's going to determine how that thing shows up in my life. So if I see the thing the right way, see here, watch this. See, I've had, so just today alone, multiple challenges today, multiple challenges from different situations, all type of stuff. And I just start to think, okay, what's happening? And then I thought about something. That when things are happening around me, that means God is about to do something through me. And that's the perspective that you want to have as well. When things begin to break out and happen around you, that means there's something that's about to happen through you. And you just got to be prepared for when it happens. And then guess what you do? You get excited. I was so excited today in the midst of the challenges, in the midst of the things that, whatever. I was so excited because I recognized that there must be a package on its way. There has to be some type of package. There must be something on the way because Why on this beautiful Monday on September 21st will all this negative activity begin to break out in my world? It's because there's something that's being delivered to my world right now. And that's the perspective that you have to have about challenges, because if you have any other perspective about challenges, if any of your challenges, listen to me, if any challenge in your life and the blame is on another person, you've lost. It does not matter the challenge. Any challenge in your life right now, at this moment, anyone in the future or anyone in the past, if there is another person or an external force that is the root cause of that challenge, you have lost the battle. You want to know how I know? Because every battle is a mind battle. It has nothing to do with the physical world. It's all about my perspective in which I see the situation. And that's what keeps me so at peace. That's what keeps me so at peace, because I understand with this mind, the freest gift that we have. I talked about this last week on the call. I was talking about choice and how choice is so powerful that even God can't control your decisions and your choices. Well, where does choice lie? Where does decision lie? Decision and choice both lie in the mind. So what that statement really means is that your mind is so powerful that God does not even control it. You do. You are in complete control over your mind. And if you can begin to see situations and challenges the way in which they were designed to be saw, if you can see the situation from the press box and not see the situation from the field, you have a chance to win the game. Let me unpack that for the person that doesn't understand what the press box is. See, when you're playing a football game or a basketball game, put football primarily, you have coaches that sit up in the press box. They sit up top and they can see the whole entirety of the field. They can see what the offense is doing. They can see what the defense is doing, because they have a different level of sight, a different perspective than you do. Not to even say that your perspective on the field, your viewpoint on the field is bad. Watch this. The coaches in the press box, his view is just better. So how do I get myself to a place where I can see things from the view, from the press box? Well, I have to take a step back and start looking around me, because sometimes we can't see what God is doing because we might just be too close to what God is doing. It's like this book, You Were Born Rich. See, if I just hold this book up to my face, I can't see everything. But if I take the book back, I can then begin to see the entirety of the book. And see, so many people, they're too close. They're looking too close and too intentionally into their situation. You're too deep into your situation. Take yourself back and look at the full view, because when you see the full view, you know what you got, you know what you can have. You can now have gratitude. When you can take a step back and see the full scope of everything, you can now apply the principle of gratitude. But anytime you're too close and you're analyzing your situation too much, you're analyzing things too much, and you haven't taken a step back to see things from the press box, then you can't utilize gratitude. Because anytime, this is so good, anytime you look for something wrong, you'll always find it. Anytime you look for something right, you will always find it. That's why you can't get upset when people start critiquing the business and say they don't want to do it. It's because they're looking for something to be wrong with the business. They're literally looking for it. They're looking for something to be wrong. They go on Instagram or on Google and look, I am scam, network marketing scam, pyramid scheme. But if they look for the things that were right, they will always find the things that are right, like the 400 plus chairman that we've created. There's 400 people that are now making over a six-figure income. All the success that we've created from a trading space, the company doing $500 million a month in revenue. But see, if you look for the wrong thing, you will always find it. You look for the right thing, you will always find it. So that's what you got. That's why you have to choose where your focus is going to be. Because remember, your mind is your world. Your mind is your world. It's the steering wheel of the ship of your feelings, your mind, nobody else's. So going back to my point about external forces, people, challenges in your business, I really want you to write this down. I feel like every person on this line, all 365 of us, every person needs this, including Cool Jones. Every person. He who angers you, she who angers you, that angers you controls you. He who angers you controls you. She who angers you controls you. And that angers you controls you. So that could be a thing or a person. If it angers you, it controls you. If this person makes you mad, they control you. Your organization makes you mad, they control you. Your leaders make you mad, they control you. Your kids make you mad, they can control you, because all they got to do is make you mad, and they can take the focus off of the goal. And then you put your focus on the negative thing that they are doing. And you've lost the battle, because the battle wasn't with the person. The battle wasn't with your son. The battle wasn't with your girlfriend. The battle wasn't with the thing that happened at school. The battle wasn't with the person that left your business. The battle was in your mind. Because when you win in your mind, you have no choice but to win in life. So if there was a scoreboard for every battle that you face over the past month in your mind, what would the scoreboard be? Really think about that. What would the scoreboard be if there was a scoreboard for every battle that you lost in your mind? Now watch this, because I'm a transparent person. Oh, I've lost a lot of battles. I lose battles in my mind every day. Every day. Every day. Because the mind is so powerful. The mind is so powerful. You can take your mind and create this situation or this situation. So it's okay to lose a battle. But it's not okay to keep losing the battles. And it's not okay to not know how to overcome the battles. But understand this, nobody's perfect. And just because you've lost the battle doesn't mean that you've lost the war. See, you got to know the difference between temporary defeat and permanent failure. And too many people mistake temporary defeat and permanent failure. And when you confuse the two, you've lost the battle, because you can't really lose until you stop trying. You can't really lose until you accept the fact in your mind that you lost. That's the only time you really lose in life. See, basketball, what determines if you lose is, if the team had more points than you, and you have to just accept that. But in life, there is no scoreboard. And that's why I'm so grateful that there's no scoreboard for every battle that we've won or lost. Because just imagine if there was a scoreboard in your mind of every battle that you won or lost, and you looked at that scoreboard and said, damn, I'm down by 60 points. There's no way that I can win. But when you start to understand that there is no scoreboard and I can change my life as soon as I change the way that I think, as soon as I change my perspective in how I see a situation, because the way that my mind set is going to be the determining factor in which the way that my life goes. So what direction is my mind set? You got to understand that your mind is the arena of faith and belief. That's why the battle is there. That's why the battle is for your mind, because your mind is the arena of faith, belief, decision-making, focus, gratitude, love, happiness, peace. See, peace or worry is only a result of what you've been thinking about. See, if you're at worry right now, place of worry, it's only because it's a result of what you've been thinking. If you're at peace, it's a result of what you've been thinking. If you're motivated, it's a result of what you've been thinking. And see, if you give attention to the wrong things, you have the wrong direction for your life. And that's why you really got to give more attention to how you think versus more attention to what it is that you do. Give more attention to how you think versus giving more attention to what it is that you do. Because if you think the right way, you will always do the right things. But if you try to do the right things without thinking the right way, what you do, there'll be a conflict. Because your behavior is always supposed to line up with your belief. Your belief is not supposed to line up with your behavior. Your behavior lines up with your belief. Remember, right thinking produces right believing. Right believing produces right working. So if I'm believing right, I'll be working right. How do I believe right? Well, I have to think right. What do I think about? I think about the things that make me feel good. I don't think about anything that's negative. I don't think about anything that knocks me off track. And it's okay to have a thought here and there, but what I cannot do, I cannot dwell on that thought. I can't allow that thought to come inside my home. And this is what a lot of people do. We have a negative situation that happens in our life. You want to brace for impact. We have a negative situation that happens in our life, right? We have something that happens, whatever the case may be. And we have that decision to say, hey, do I want to entertain this negative thought? And what happens is the thought knocks at the front door. Hey, it's me, it's negative thought. And guess what the negative thought does? The negative thought gives you a suggestion. The negative thought gives you a suggestion. And then you begin to think about that negative thought. And the negative thought says, you know what? This person don't let me in the house. And so then they come in the house, they start looking around your mind. The negative thought starts looking around your home. And then, you start having conflict and you start to have conversation, not conflict, you start to have conversation with this negative thought, meaning you go back and forth with this negative thought. And then the negative thought says, you know what, I want some coffee. And you go get the negative thought, coffee. And now you have this whole back and forth with this negative thought. Dang, man, this person, they said this about me. Well, why do you think they said it? Oh, it's because blah, 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 blah. Or this person did this to me, or this challenge happened in my business, or this, and then you create this scenario in your mind. You create this scenario in your mind. So now what happens is the negative thought has found a way inside your home, inside your mind. You entertain the thought. You get the thought coffee. You get the thought something to drink. And then as soon as you turn your back, the thought looks around the corner and see if you're paying attention. And then as soon as you keep walking, as soon as you stop focusing, the thought makes his way up into your bedroom. And then as soon as you get into the bed, the thought is there waiting on you. And then you go to sleep thinking about negativity. And then when you wake up, guess what? The thought is still there. And then your day is now led by negativity. And then you think about the thought so much, excuse the imagery, but the thought begins to procreate in your mind and create other negative thoughts. And now, because you allow the thought to just come inside the house and shut the door, make his way into your room, your life is now consumed by negative thoughts. It's consumed by negative thoughts. And all you got to do is just shut the door. Because guess what? There's going to be challenges and negative thoughts that come upon all of us about this business, about life, challenges, whatever the case may be. And we can't stop that. See, we can't stop the bird from landing on our head, but we can stop the bird from building a nest. Meaning we can't stop the thought from coming to our front door, but we can stop the thought from coming in, because you never, ever accept anything that you don't want. That's stupid. That's dumb. Why would I accept anything that I really don't want? So if I don't want this negative thought, why would I accept it? If I don't want to believe this way, why would I accept it? If I don't want to think this way, why would I accept it in the home of my mind? Right thinking produces the right believing. Right believing produces the right working. What do you think wrong thinking produces? Wrong thinking produces believing as well. But wrong thinking produces the wrong type of believing, meaning you're not believing for the thing that you really want. You're believing for the things that you really don't want because your thoughts are not lined up in the way in which they should be. So what you got to make that decision to say, this is what I'm going to allow my focus to be, because my mind always needs something to focus on. My mind always needs some type of instruction, and my mind always needs an example to follow. You need a focus, you need instruction, and you need example. What are you going to allow your mind to focus on? You know what my mind is focused on? The things that are in my control. I can't focus on anything else. I can't focus on any numbers. I can't focus on what people do. I can't focus on what people say. I can't control any of that. All of that is out of my control. The only thing that I can control is my personal growth and my personal activity. My personal growth and my personal activity. You want to know why I can control it? Because it's personal. It's personal. It has nothing to do with you. It's personal. That's what I control. And those are the only things that you can control. And when you lock in your growth, your personal self-development, you know what happens? You know what raises? Your awareness. Your awareness raises. And when your awareness raises, your perspective goes to another level. And you can start to see things in the way that you are supposed to see things and not the way that everybody else sees things. And when you can see things differently from the way that everybody else sees things, you're putting yourself in position to win, because every battle is a mind battle. And if you win the game in your mind, you win the game in life. But so many people lose the game in their mind on a consistent basis, and those losses in their mind show up in their experiences, and they lose in life as well. So you got to understand that you are in control over those two things and nothing else. Anything outside of that is out of your control. And because it's out of your control, you shouldn't allow it to affect you. Because if that thing that's out of your control angers you, then that thing that's out of your control, somehow it starts to control you. And that's scary. That's pretty scary. I can't even control this, but it has me angry. So the thing that I can't even control is controlling me. Whew. That's deep. That's deep. The core, the root of all successful people that I've figured out, obviously, and it's not even hard to figure out, is that they believe, and this is going to be the final thing that I leave with, and I'm about to hop off. I ain't even packed. I'm going to Seattle in the morning. I ain't packing nothing. I'll be going all week. All right, so here's the deal. The common thread in all successful people is that they believe. And if you saw the game last night, you will see that, AD took the game, winning shot, hit it, boom, buzzer beater, win the game. Lakers up 2-0, Lake Show. You already know the vibes. And then I was watching the post-game interview, and here's what LeBron said. This was so profound. This was so profound what LeBron said. He said, it's not about making the shots. It's about having the belief to take it and being able to live with the repercussions of you taking it. Think about that. It's not about me making the shots. I just got to have the confidence to just take it and being able to live with the consequences of me taking it. So many people don't even have the confidence to take the shots. And because they don't even have the confidence to take the shot for their success, for their goals, they have to live a life that they really don't want to live. They have to live with the consequences of settling because they didn't take the shot, not understanding that it's not about making it. It's just about having the belief and confidence to just take it. Because if I can have the belief and confidence to take it and be okay with living with the results of it, I'll keep taking it. And at some point, I'm going to hit it, because you never make all the game winners. You never make all the clutch shots, but you do have to develop the clutch gene by shooting in those moments over and over. So you got to develop that clutch gene for your family, because if you don't do it, who will? You have to be that AD. You have to be that Kobe. You have to be that Mike for your family. You have to take that shot for your family. And it's not about making every single one. It's about having the belief and living with the consequences that you even took it. Because I'll rather live with the consequences that I took it versus living with the consequences that I didn't. And with that being said, get your ticket for the convention. I love you all. I will see you at the bank. Good night. God bless you, your family, and your dreams. Let's have an amazing week.